Hello, everyone. This is a review of the Ghostbusters reboot movie that came out this year. Now, I just watched this movie recently, and it was a little bit rubbish, to be honest. Was it the worst movie ever made? No. It had a lot of problems, but there were a few things I liked about it too, so I guess overall I'd call it mediocre. And that's not a good place to be for a comedy movie. I mean, something either makes you laugh or it doesn't, and for the most part, this movie just didn't make me laugh. Now, the original 1984 Ghostbusters movie was really good, and the new movie is, in most respects, just a remake of that one. So I thought it'd be interesting to compare the two. Now, in a lot of ways, discussing comedy can be quite difficult. You know, people have different senses of humor, and they find different things funny. Some people like understated, character-driven comedies, and some people are objectively wrong. So, to save myself from saying, in my opinion, roughly 100 times, I'll just leave a disclaimer here that all my declarative sentences about what is and is not funny, they re my own opinions. You re free to disagree. And I annoyingly have to make a brief note here about the controversy surrounding the release of the movie. The internet was pretty mad about this movie before it even came out, and a lot of dumb people said a lot of dumb things. So, let's first off list some points which are not the reason that the movie isn't good. 1. Because it's got women in it. No, that doesn't matter at all. 2. Because of Leslie Jones or any other actor or actors. No, everyone who's in the movie is at least a capable actor. Miscast, may be arguable, but this was the fault of the actors. 3. Because of how poorly it was marketed, the awful trailer, or anything else. And there's a lot to talk about there, but I am only interested in what's actually in the movie right now. So, what were the actual reasons? Well, after quickly Googling how to analyze movies, I've identified a few key areas where I think the reboot underperforms compared to the original. Firstly, the script. Certain things are missing, and certain things are in there that don't need to be. Secondly, the characters. Characterizations are very patchy, and the characters break character too easily. Character. And thirdly, the editing, and this is the big one for me personally. The movie was edited by someone who, I'm sorry to say, is not good at identifying things which are funny. Now, the main problem with the comedy in this comedy movie is that it appears to have been written, directed, and edited with the following principle in mind. Jokes are funny, right? So, the more jokes you do, the funnier it is. Comedy doesn't work that way, I'm afraid. The movie has a lot of funny moments, but they re-stifled by the surrounding unfunny moments. Comedy, to a large extent, relies on establishing and maintaining a mood. And it's better to have no joke at all than a bad joke that kills the mood. Bad jokes prey on good jokes and eat them. But we'll talk more about that in a little while. Let's first talk briefly about the story. Now, both the new movie and the original broadly follow the same basic plot. Some scientists who believe in ghosts get kicked out of their college or colleges, develop technology to catch ghosts, start a ghost catching business, and then they have to face off against some larger paranormal threat, and they end up saving the city. Now, the new Ghostbusters makes a few changes to the particulars of the storyline, some of which are fine, but some of which I think actively harm the story. Now, the worst of these for me was having the government already know about the ghosts and engaging in a conspiracy to cover them up. And we are not frauds, we are legitimate scientists. Let me interrupt you. We know you. We not frauds. because we have been monitoring the situation quite closely. Agents Hawkins and Rourke are with Homeland Security, so we've been investigating this extremely quietly. You see, this kind of robs the Ghostbusters as their unique thing for me. You know, the ghost thing. In the old Ghostbusters, the government, represented by the mayor and Walter Peck, they don't believe in ghosts, and they've got to be convinced of it. In the new movie, when the Ghostbusters meet the mayor, he's like, "Ye ghosts." We know. And it's like, oh well, I guess people already know about ghosts. Then that kind of makes the Ghostbusters less special. And I'm just gonna quickly run through some other structural or storyline changes that I felt were detrimental. Patty joins the Ghostbusters for no reason. In the first movie, Winston just walked in looking for a job. In the new movie, Patty is one of the Ghostbusters' first customers. And that's fine by itself. There's nothing wrong with that. I might even like that more than the original if they gave Patty a solid reason to actually want to join the Ghostbusters. It feels like there was a scene cut where Patty got fired over the ghost thing. You know, maybe she keeps telling customers about the ghost, or her boss fires her for bringing the Ghostbusters there or something like that. So then she joins the Ghostbusters because they're the only ones who believe her about the ghost. Instead, she just turns up and demands a job for no clear reason. She even complains about the job later on in the movie. I had a good job at the Tamta. Was it perfect? No, of course it wasn't perfect. But I tell you what, everybody was alive. And the audience is thinking, well, why did you leave the old job again? It wouldn't surprise me if there's a deleted scene of Patty getting fired, to be honest. No money issues. In the original Ghostbusters, Venkman talks Stance into Stance. 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 Is that how you say that? I've written it here. I've never said it out loud. Stance. In the original Ghostbusters, Bill Murray talks Dan Aykroyd into taking out an extra mortgage on his house to finance the start of the business, and they basically broke when they get their first real job. And I like this finance element. It's largely missing from the new movie. They don't even bill the theater guy for catching the demand host thing there, and there's no explanation for how they were able to finance developing all the host tech. No getting famous montage. In the original movie, there's a montage scene of the Ghostbusters in the media, completing more jobs, and generally showing the passage of time. In the new movie, they catch on coast and they immediately, like, immediately on the news and famous, and I don't know, it just felt a bit rushed. Too much action near the end of the movie. And this is in turn a problem with the structure, the editing, and just the overall general direction, but whatever, I'm putting it here. In the original Ghostbusters, what action there was always served the needs of the story or the comedy. The action scene near the end of the new movie goes on entirely too long and serves no real purpose beyond showing off a bunch of special effects. That end there, a few genuinely embarrassing moments featuring Holtzman, but we'll get to her in a bit. Now all of these are flaws, but none of them are really movie killers. They'd all be excusable if the movie were funnier. So let's talk about why it wasn't. And here's what I think is the most glaring problem with the comedy in the new Ghostbusters movie. Everyone tries to be funny. Almost every single character, large or small, is played for laughs in a very overstated way. Now, in the original Ghostbusters movie, the only character to intentionally crack jokes at any point, I think, is Venkman. Every single other character is played pretty much straight. Scenes with Venkman and one other character resemble a classic double-act routine, with Venkman as the comic and the other character, whoever it is, as the straight man. Not that the other characters aren't funny. Jeanine is funny. Egon is funny. This hotel attendant trying to hide the ghosts from the guests is funny, but they not trying to be funny. The humor comes from their characters and the situation that they in. The contrast of characters can be a funny joke in and of itself. Stantz walks out of the elevator, tense and serious, and Venkman follows calmly. Now, neither is funny by itself, but together the contrast gets a laugh. But together the fun. Or consider Venkman's introductory scene, where Venkman is lying to the two students about the results of an test. Now, no one is trying to be funny in this scene. No one is trying to be funny in this. No one's saying funny things. It's just a funny situation. We're relearning about Venkman's character. He's manipulative, he's selfish, he doesn't take his work seriously. And the humor comes from the simple, dramatic irony of the audience being able to see the cards while the students can't. Now, in the new Ghostbusters movie, well, all the Ghostbusters are played funny nearly all the time for a start. But so is almost every other character. This tour guide has to be funny. The FBI guy has to be funny. The college dean has to be funny. The food delivery man even has to be funny. Even the antagonist has to be funny. And then the world shall bend tomorrow. Okay, I apologize, that looks nastier than I intended. One of the only characters to be played straight is the old-fashioned dean of Columbia University, played by Charles Dance, who, not so coincidentally, says probably my favorite line in the movie. Dr. Bronstone saw this on Reddit. It was reblogged from a site entitled Coast News, not a publication I'd heard of. Now, the derision with which he says reblogged from a site entitled Coast News is funny, because we know his character from earlier and understand that he would hate to say that sentence. At no point does Charles Dance break character and start riffing and telling awful jokes. And speaking of, let's talk about the Ghostbusters themselves. Now, the early scenes in the new Ghostbusters actually gave me hope that it was gonna be really good. The opening conflict between Erin and Abby is completely fine, in my opinion. I feel like we get a sense of who these characters are at the start of the movie. You know, Erin is high-strung. She takes herself and her work seriously. She believes in ghosts but doesn't want anyone to know. Abby is less serious, believes in ghosts and wants to prove it, and she's angry at Erin for a perceived betrayal. You know, it's not Hamlet by any means, but the original Ghostbusters characters weren't Hamlet either. You know, they refine characters for a comedy movie about ghosts. They even given a pretty deep personal reason to want to prove ghosts exist. When I was 8 years old, the mean old lady that lived next door died. And that night, I woke up and she was standing at the foot of my bed, just staring at. She did that every night for almost a year, which I thought was a bit serious and probably overkill, but you know, I'm not really complaining. And early on, there's some okay to actually pretty good moments with these characters. I like when Erin's argue with this guy and pretending that she didn't to write the book. I like her trying to hide her monitor from Charles Dance. I like Abby and Erin arguing about the book. You know, it's not hilarious or anything, but it's fine character building. Now, the big letdown for me is how quickly the movie was willing to completely abandon these characters. For example, at one point, a paranormal skeptic played by a retired-looking Bill Murray comes to see the ghosts they captured. Then Erin, because she wants to prove ghosts exist so much, lets the ghost out and it murders Bill Murray. So the Ghostbusters essentially kill a man, which is weird enough by itself, to be honest, but then not 10 seconds later. Who tore him out the window? A ghost threw him out the window. Oh, you mean like Patrick Swayze? Like he's sitting behind you making some pottery. Yeah, like Patrick Swayze. That's it. And then we were all dancing at a summer camp in the Catskills, and then we sat down and he was behind me and we made a vase. Oh, you recombining the two. I combined a couple of sways. Oh, you know what was a good one. You know what was Roadhouse. I loved Roadhouse. It was a point break. It was a point break. Come on at the end with a big wave. Now, why are they doing a little Patrick Swayze movie a riff bit with this police officer? They just saw some D. And I'm thinking, well, they just caused the death of a man. Why don't they care about that? All the early scenes established Erin as a self-serious person who was sensitive to what other people think about her, but at the first chance to do some jokey jokes, that all gets tossed out. And I mean, if they re not gonna bother trying to have consistent characterization, they may as well just have characters with seemingly no motivation whatsoever who act completely randomly all the time. And speaking of, let's talk about Holtzman. Now, Holtzman isn't developed enough to even be called a character, really. She's a character trait. She's swacky. When she's introduced, she's not really given a clear motivation, but she seems pretty excited about going to see a ghost. So I am thinking, okay, she wants to see a ghost. That's her thing. But when she does see a ghost, so I am thinking, oh, she doesn't care about seeing a ghost then. But now she seems excited she saw a ghost again. Like, what is she doing? What is this character ever doing? In fact, almost every time Holtzman was on screen when I watched this movie, I was solely wondering what she was doing and why. She's like a character void. It's impossible to have an opinion about Holtzman. And the sad thing here is that all it would have taken was a few lines of exposition at her introduction to give her some grounding in reality. You know, you can do the wacky scientist thing, and well, I mean, Egon in the original movie was that to an extent, but underneath all the wackiness, you still need to have an actual identifiable human. Of course, Holtzman is given a few lines of humanizing dialogue in the movie that ground her a little. I didn't think that he would ever really have a friend until I met Abby, and then I feel like I have a family. I have me own, and I love you. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, that was a real thing right there. That was like so real. And Patty's right. That was so real right there. If only something like that could have came near the start of the movie instead of 5 minutes from the end, so I didn't waste 2 hours wondering if Holtzman was human or not. And as for Patty, I don't have too much to say about her, to be honest. She's fine overall, except, oddly enough, for everything that they put in the trailer. She does break character, least often, out of any of the Ghostbusters, so she gets a point for that. And speaking of Holtzman and characters who aren't really characters, Kevin, who is stupid. So stupid as to not even be a human, actually. I mentioned earlier that I think Hemsworth was miscast. Not because he's not funny, though he isn't in this. I mean, he might be a funny guy elsewhere, but in this, he's dreadful. No, I think he's miscast because he's too famous, and he thus gets way too much screen time for what should be a minor character. You can have a minor character who's incredibly stupid, that's fine, but having several scenes that focus solely on that character where the only joke is that they are stupid, well, that gets tedious very quickly. And maybe it's just me, but a lot of the jokes where the punchline is, Kevin is stupid, are a little stupid. Would it be okay if I bring me cat to work sometimes? He has major anxiety problems. You know what? I would love to let your cat live here with you, but I have a pretty severe cat allergy. Oh, I don't have a cat. He's a dog. His name's me cat. Your dog's name is me cat. Mike Hat. Your dog's name is Mike, last name Hat. Well, his full name is Michael Hat. What the hell are they even talking about, honestly? Just because he's dumb doesn't mean the writing has to be dumb. You can have a cleverly constructed joke about a character being stupid. Okay, one last time. These are small, but the ones out there are far away. Small, far away. A character being stupid should really be the means by which a joke is told, rather than the punchline in and of itself. There, only one thing he even says in the movie that actually got a laugh out of me, and that's just because it's a line lifted out of the original. Ghostbusters, what do you want? What do you want? Ghostbusters? What do you Ghostbusters, what do you want? What do you want? Do you want So just to be fair here, Before I move on to talk about editing, I'd like to point out some moments that I actually really enjoyed in the new movie. I like when Erin's trying to warn the mayor about what's gonna happen. I like when this thing starts spinning around really fast. I like when the camera footage cuts to a YouTube video playing in Charles Dance's office. I like when Abby goes to hit the bomb like a baseball and misses. Although it's not edited very well, but whatever. I like the idea, so I give it a pass. I like when Erin is having a tantrum and picks up the bomb to throw it. And Abby and Holtzman freak out. Maybe I just think bombs are funny. I don't know. Now all of these at least got a smile out of it. Amen. But if you notice something about all these moments, they real physical comedy. And the new movie is generally at its strongest when it keeps the humor nonverbal, which is the nicer way around of saying that the movie is at its weakest when the characters talk. And bugger 'em do they talk. And talk until any actual comedy present's been run into the ground. A few visuals actually get ruined to a certain degree because the characters just want to shut up for 5 seconds. Let's look at one instance of the same joke that's in both the old Ghostbusters and the new. The same visual joke, recoiling from the proton pack being turned on, has much less impact in the new movie because, for whatever reason, someone involved in the production decided that Melissa McCarthy should be yelling over the top of it. And the constant talking isn't just background noise. The reluctance to edit it out or cut away from it artificially extends the runtime of a whole bunch of scenes long past the point where the joke's dead. And there's a lot of these scenes, but we just gonna be looking at a select few. First up is Patty delivering the hearse. So, fundamentally, what, if anything, is the funny thing about this scene? The funny thing about what? If Anna send a van and Well, on one level, it's a simple reversal of expectation. The other Ghostbusters weren't expecting the car to be a hearse, and then the car is a hearse. Now, as a British man, that's enough for me. I am happy with that right there. You've got your reversal of expectation, a little irony in the fact that the Ghostbusters drive a hearse. Job done. Now, the problem is, this premise is funny enough to sustain a full conversation about it. Now, for all the non-British people in the audience, I'll allow the premise one more joke, maybe like the following. Hope you checked to see there wasn't a body in the back. Oh, I don't think so. I don't really know. You didn't check. I mean, I was in a hurry. I checked to see if we had gas. That was more important. Now, if I were editing this scene, I would have cut to the next scene right there. Erin jokes that there might be a body in the back of the hearse, and it turns out that Patty does actually know if there's a body in the back of the hearse. It's not exactly a knee slapper, but it's good enough, that is, until the premise gets stretched way too thin. So there is a body. Let Hoseman check. She likes that type of stuff. Yeah, I can't think of 7 good uses of a cadaver today. No, Dr. Frankenstein. We got a turn in the body if there's swoon in there. All right. Don to do that. Too many times when I was watching this movie, I was just waiting for the characters to stop talking so that the story would progress. Let's look at another example like this, and while you're re-watching, have a think about where you would put the cut to the next scene. This is an institution of higher learning. And if you guys want to study ghosts, do it somewhere else. Because I have 2 words for you. Let me guess. Get out. No, he's gonna say suck it. He's not gonna say suck it. Suck it. You were right. Oh my gosh. I think it might be a ghost. Oh no, it's not. It's just a bird. Bye. There's the door. Later days. Can you hear this? Let me turn it up. Oh my God. This is incredibly immature behavior. Got it. Just a minor setback. No, guys, I think we can really do this. Goes on a bit, doesn't it? So, what's the comedic element to this scene? What's because the comedic element it's that you'd expect the dean of a university to be very professional and mature, a bit like Charles Dance, say. But this dean is very unprofessional and immature. So what you want to do, once the scene's fulfilled its narrative purpose, is cut on the most emphatic instance of that. And if we do that, and if, well, though that, do, this is an institution of higher learning. And if you guys want to study ghosts, do it somewhere else. Because I have 2 words for you. Let me guess. Get out. No, he's gonna say suck it. He's not gonna say suck it. Suck it. Just a minor setback. No, guys, I think we can really do this. And would you look at that? That's much better. And let's look at another scene that's in desperate want of editing. Erin gets fired by Charles Dance after he sees the YouTube video. And then there's an awful, drawn-out scene of Erin walking down a hallway, pretending to not have been fired to everyone. And it's unnecessary, and it's crap, and it goes on forever. Now, in the original Ghostbusters, Stantz and Venkman get fired by the dean, and we immediately cut to them drinking outside. And we get it. They've been fired. We don't need it spelled out. It's funnier if it happens off screen. You could cut the whole walking down the corridor riffing on being fired bit entirely, and just go straight from Charles Dance to the next scene. Well, hope you were happy. That video you posted got me fired. Or you could go even further with it, and leave the entire firing just implied with something like this. Ghosts are real. Ghosts are real. I believe in ghosts because they deserve to be real. Who is that? Well, hope you were happy. That video you posted got me fired. Sonny, send me all the raw footage. I'll cut a good movie out of it. I promise. It'll only be 40 minutes long, but it'll be really good. Now, the first Ghostbusters movie was much more sparing with the dialogue, and they knew how to cut away after a good line. Do you have any hobbies? I collect spores, molds, and fungus. If that line was in the new movie, they'd probably follow it with 45 seconds of awful improv riffing about fungus. Now, I don't know where the problems with this movie originated, in the writing, the direction, the acting, or wherever, but if there's bad jokes in there, then it needed an editor with the ability to cut them out. And that just didn't happen, I'm afraid. Overall, I'd call Ghostbusters 2016 a spectacular summer hit that the whole family can enjoy. 9 stars.